Hello, all, and welcome back to a new episode of Movies and Us, a weekly gathering place filled with conversations about movies, stories, and connection. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And today we're going to be reviewing the film Sinners. We're so excited about it, but we're even more excited because we are joined by a very special guest, Kenny Sparks. Kenny's back on the pod, y'all. Kenny, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, y'all, I'm Kenny Sparks. I am a YouTuber and just a human watching things and having thoughts. I'm super excited to be talking about Sinners. This has been an excellent couple of weeks of just conversation. I'm glad to be continuing it.
Yes. We're going to get to bask in the glow of this time where we get to have this movie and talk about it. It's going to be great. So, Sarah, do you want to kick us off with an IMDb summary for Sinners?
Sure. Trying to leave their troubled lives behind, twin brothers return to their hometown to start again, only to discover that an even greater evil is waiting to welcome them back.
That's such a good one-sentence summary, or IMDb summary. That was really good.
I love that it doesn't even mention vampires.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the feeling of foreboding is there and present and so curiosity-inducing. I love it. Okay, well, let's, in Movies and Us tradition, share our one-sentence summaries for Sinners. Kenny, as our guest, do you want to share yours?
Sure. Sinners is Ryan Coogler's love letter to Black people, hidden inside of a vampire epic.
Yes, so good. I love the turn that your one-sentence summary takes. Yeah, hidden inside. Yeah, this formula. It's so good. Sarah, what is your one-sentence summary?
My summary is, listen to Black women.
Hey, let's go. Talk about it. Talk about it. Yes.
Yeah. So good.
100%.
So
Sorry,
good.
I just got very excited.
I love it. My one-sentence summary is, racism will suck the life out of you.
Hey, that's y'all are on tens, hundreds, multiples of tens today. That is awesome.
Okay, let's dive in. We're going to start talking about this movie, and we're going to roundtable temp check how we felt about this movie. We won't spoil it quite yet. This is a movie, oh my gosh, you have to go in blind with. Don't let the articles and stuff spoil this movie for you. You have to see and experience it for the first time yourself, fully, the way it was meant to be experienced. But we will give you our headlines and our thoughts about it, so that we highly encourage you to go see this. So let's roundtable. How do we feel about Sinners? What do we think going in? And then what do we feel going out of the theater and in the weeks since? So Kenny, tell me your thoughts about Sinners.
So my thoughts about Sinners are vast and deep. Wait, that sounded way too deep. But there's a lot of thoughts about Sinners because there's a lot of layers to Sinners. Let me just start off the bat. I love this movie. This movie is my favorite movie of the year. I do not see any movie taking that number one spot for me. It was so funny because I watched Warfare the week before. I was like, this is the best movie I've seen this year. And the next week, Sinners comes out. I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. So, but this movie in particular, I absolutely love how Ryan Coogler was able to use, like I mentioned in my one sentence summary, a vampire movie, a vampire setup even, to do much more than just vampire lore and vampire stuff. And the thing that I actually do love that Ryan Coogler did is that he didn't shy away from vampire lore either. It's all in there, but it's just used in a very effective way in a story that he's telling to enlighten folks, because not everybody knows everything, including myself and other people who are of my culture, in my kin. And it was a beautiful, like when I say it's a beautiful love letter, I'm specifically talking about one particular scene. I mean, there's many scenes, but there's one particular scene in the juke joint where there's music playing, and we'll get to that in the spoilers, I'm sure. But that scene, tears, like literal tears, and it was like I couldn't even explain it. It was like, why am I feeling this emotional? So this movie hits me on so many different levels, between how I feel as a Black person, as a Black man, how I feel just as like a movie fan, someone who appreciates film. And the movie is technically amazing, actually. The movie is technically amazing. It's super well acted. Oh my God. Oh my God. Of course you start with Michael B. Jordan, but Delroy Lindo and Wumi Masaku and forgetting the Haley Seinfeld. And of course, like the young man who's I think this is his first role. I forget his first name, but I believe his last name is Cates or something of that nature. So
Miles
but
Catton, who plays Sammy.
Catton. I don't know
Yes.
where I got Catton from. Yeah, Miles Catton. Yeah, like there's so many different elements. Like it hits on every single level.
Yeah.
And then it's a really cool vampire flick with some awesome an awesome end scene that everybody in the theater wanted to see that we will get to in the spoilers. So like it was an experience is what I would call it. But yeah, that's my read on the movie.
So good. I love that you called it an experience because it is that, and it will
Hmm.
stick with you in the days and the months and the weeks afterwards. Like, yeah,
Yes.
you will not forget this movie. So good. Maybe we'll include Zach's thoughts about Sinners here. So
Mm.
one of our other pod friends, great friend of Kenny as well, who's also
Yeah, it's my
a
guy.
cinephile. Yes, I
Yep.
know you two are
The
tight.
baby cinephile.
Yes, we were hoping to have him on the pod, but schedule life be lifing. So we're
Right.
gonna include his thoughts here, but we want to make sure there's a spot for him to share and just talk about this movie. So we include that right here.
Sinners is a film that works on all levels. From a pure entertainment standpoint, it gives you lovable characters, relatable drama, and quotable jokes way before the vampires show up and turn up the gore. Michael B. Jordan is fantastic in his dual roles as the Smoke and Stack twins. Delroy Lindo is hilarious and nearly steals the show in every scene he is in. And the rest of the cast brings it in spades. I can't gush enough about how great this cast, this ensemble cast, is and how they bring so much life to this film. With the standout being Miles Clayton, who nailed his first role ever as Preacher Boy. He brings so much pathos, so much talent with his deep, deep voice that does not look like it's supposed to be attached to his body to a character that we are supposed to be following throughout the film. But when you look past the surface level of the film and the entertainment of it all, you see a movie that's dipped deep into the rich history of colonization, Black history, and the dynamics of different cultures connecting with each other and coming in contested with each other. And it connects the past to the present in a very, very relevant way in terms of how we're seeing a lot of things in Black culture being cherry-picked and being stolen. It's been a few weeks since I've seen this film, and there's still things I'm picking up from all the themes of the movie. Just some things you pick up right away, you can discuss for weeks, and it kind of opens up a conversation for more things as you learn about what's going on in this movie, especially in the later acts. Ryan Coogler absolutely nailed it, and now he's 5 for 5 for me, and I think he's on his way to becoming one of the all-time great directors.
Awesome. All right. So, Sarah, tell us your thoughts about Sinners.
Yeah, this movie rocks. It's so good. I feel like 2025 movies, for the most part, have been like mediocre, and you go to the theater and you're like, well, that was a thing that I watched. But man, Sinners, it's so good. I mean, just like you said, Kenny, it's good. Technically, the visuals are incredible. The music, oh my gosh, I have been just living in the Sinners soundtrack for weeks now, and I'm just loving it. It's thematically rich. Like, there's so much to glean from this film. And so I've now seen it twice in the theaters, and each time I pulled out different things from it. Like, it is one that you can just like rewatch again and again and again and find more there, because it works as a vampire movie. It's so much fun to watch, but there's so much meaning here, and it's written so well, so intentionally. And like you said, it will leave you with things to think about for days and weeks afterwards. So yeah, everyone go see Sinners. I would like to very quickly encourage all of my fellow white people to go see this movie as well. Like, it very much is a love letter to Black people. It does not center white people at all. And I think it's really, really valuable for us to go and watch movies like this that don't center around people that look like us, and to learn new things. You know, I didn't learn a lot about Jim Crow era in the South. And obviously this is not a historical document, but there's so much truth here, and there's little things that you can pick up on and can encourage you to go deeper and learn more and just support great cinema like this. So I just want to encourage all the white folks out there, if you haven't yet seen Sinners, please go see Sinners. And it's an incredible movie.
Yeah, I feel the need to evangelize this movie to everybody. Like, a lot of my friends know that I am into film, and they're like, "What have you seen lately?" I'm like, "Can I tell you about Sinners? Because it's the best movie of the year, and you have to go see it." Plus one to everything that y'all said. I think that this I feel passionately that people are loving this movie, which is making me so happy. But I think the legacy of this film and the layered depth of its craft, I think, is like yet to be fully appreciated, actually. So I think that people obviously are having a great time with this movie and are seeing that there's these very clear themes, but I actually think there's like so much greater attention to details that are woven into this, and everything has a purpose and everything has meaning to it, that like it's almost like the full capacity of it yet is still like being understood layer after layer after layer, and I hope will continue to be studied by people who love film and people who don't love film. I think that like this will grow in its significance over time is my deepest hope for this movie. Its ability to also play within such an established, iconic genre stereotype, and to play within the formula, but then also to expand the formula and do it in a very layered way is I think the most like interesting, fascinating part about this movie's intentionality as well, because it allows for the masses to come and engage, which I think is important and significant, and also like really notable given Ryan Coogler's like career choices in general. It's almost like he has been making strategic decisions in an industry that is optimizing for one thing and figured out how to bring what he feels passionate about to people through the system and working within the system for his purposes. So even, so many of his other projects that have been big blockbusters have mass appeal. Like there's a marketing strategy and an accessibility to the masses that I think he's cracked and figured out, and bringing this important message. This is not like a niche film loved, critic beloved film that like not that many people are going to go see. Like this has the ability to captivate so many more eyeballs than him starting and making like an indie film that's very niche and very artsy fartsy. Like this has got both and all of it, everything above. So I think that is notable about this film. I think we see a lot of things that are really groundbreaking and interesting and fresh and new, but they often live within this like little bubble over here. And the ability for Sinners to be a popcorn movie and then also touch you deeply in your soul and give you an experience that is so important and necessary for the time, that's incredible. Like that marrying of the capitalist machine and the marketing strategies with this message and using it for its purposes. I just love it so much. So I'm excited to dive into this movie because there's so much here, but that in and of itself alone at a high level, I think is magical about this movie.
Yeah, Ryan Coogler's journey to get here is actually really impressive. Like you were saying, like he played the game essentially. He's done the long after sequel with Creed. He did the big tentpole movie with Black Panther. He did the adapted story with Fruitvale Station, which is actually his only movie that I haven't seen because I don't think I could handle it. I'm not sure if I could. So yeah, like I've sworn off like black trauma movies, so I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to see it. Like part of me wants to sacrifice and see it, but I don't know. But yeah, so he's done all that, and now he has his own original film that he wrote and directed with a host of other creatives that were working in tandem with him. And now he like if you look at his deal that he got to do this movie, like he has, I don't want to say a blank check, but it certainly feels like it. Like you would be foolish to say, "Hey, Ryan, I don't think that's going to work," right? So he's really set that up for himself and set up a lot for the legacy in the future of how creatives can make those kind of deals. Because he's not going to be the only person to get this kind of thing, and I'm glad that he's the person who started it with a phenomenal film to match with it, right? So he proved them right in saying we're investing in you, but then also proved himself right with making such a great project. So yeah, all kudos to Ryan Coogler on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of being aware of the need to play the long game and make those right choices every step of the way so that he can fully realize his vision at a time like this. But kind of that investment of putting in the reps, building the trust with the studios, building the relationships with the stars, building those connection points so that at such a time as this, he can birth something that's really fresh and innovative and do it his way with the resources he needed to secure along the way. So that like ability to play and understand the strategic steps needed to get to this point, I think is like just a different side of, I think, the creative process. And like so many people have that clarity of vision, but seeing him build towards that over time and put in those reps is really notable as well in kind of how to think about being a creative in this space and sometimes bringing those visions to life and understanding when is going to be that right time where all of those things fall into place in the way that you need it to be. So yeah, really exciting. And I'm so excited to see what he does next. Oh my gosh. Give that man money.
Yeah, apparently it's X-Files. So I'm excited to see that.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm here for that. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for that.
All right, let's give a spoiler alert so we can dive fully into all of the different aspects of Sinners. So if you haven't seen it yet, as you can tell, we're gushing about this movie, and we will continue to gush about this movie for the next hour. So we can't recommend this movie enough. I think it's like one of the top movies, if not the top movie of the year for all of us, and it'd be tough to uproot this one from the top spot. But I think it's a movie that like is so important to go see. So, all right. Let's dive fully in. Where shall we begin first? Maybe, Kenny, I would love to hear like that initial theater going experience. Like what was the thing that as you're like going back to your car on the drive home, like what was like reverberating in your mind most? Whether it's a certain scene, a certain shot, a certain thematic, thread line.
A lot of emotion. It's very similar, and this is going to be a weird comparison for some people, but it's very similar to how I felt coming home from seeing Avengers Endgame, right? It's something that you were anticipating, and then you saw it, or at least for me, I saw it, and I was so satisfied. And I think that's the word I would take away from it. I was so satisfied when I left the theater. I felt fulfilled, right? I felt like I got everything that I came here for, and I could not be happier about this movie. It's like one of those things where it's like, I don't even want to hear critiques right now. I don't want to analyze this. I just feel really good right now. So we can analyze and critique and do it. But this right here, I have such a good feeling right now. So that was like the entire vibe for me and my wife when we left the theater, driving home from Jersey. But yeah, it was amazing. And coming into it, like I can talk about my experience like with the movie itself, whenever we're ready. But if we're just talking about on the drive home, I can stick to that.
Yeah, no, I would love to hear your thoughts or the kind of the emotions that came even during the film's experience as well, and what were some of those like big feelings that came along the way.
Yeah, so the movie was a really interesting experience from the standpoint that the way the movie starts, all the way up until we get to the vampires is not what I was expecting at all. We spent so much time building these characters, building this community. So when the table was set and everything is about to go down, we know exactly who this person is, who that person is, how they think, what they believe. Like we knew everything about these characters. And I've heard some people say, oh, the buildup is a little long, but I think that was necessary for us to really know who these people are, especially when having twins as the main characters, right? I know one wore red and one wore blue, but that did not help for me for large portions of the movie because like, wait, which one is Smoke? Which one is Second? Like I could tell that the personalities were different, but I just had to get the names right. And so I needed that time to get with them. And what I loved about it, and what was most important about it taking that long, is that they split the brothers up and you saw exactly how different they are from one another. These are two completely different people. And shout out to Michael B. Jordan for portraying two completely different people who are twins. But yeah, like it it was necessary to see how Smoke relates to Annie and what his relationship is like and his mindset and how Stack relates to the Asian community and how Stack relates to Sammy and Delroy Orlando's character, whose name I'm forgetting. Like it was great. Oh, and of course Mary in that situation. Like it was
Yeah.
important for them to split them up and then to bring them together, and now you have all your major characters together, and like I said, you know exactly who everybody is. So that build up, especially the time that we spent with Delroy Lindo's character,
Oh,
and
he's
I like so the tears are happening,
yeah.
but especially when they're in the car and they're riding in the car and he's talking about his past and they pass by these gentlemen who are in like the chain gang and he yells out to them and he's like and he's encouraging them because that's where he used to be, and then he starts talking, hold on, we're not doing crying today, and then he starts
Yeah, beautiful.
talking about his past, and then he just starts like humming to himself, which apparently was not in the script. He just started doing that.
Mm.
And then that's why Michael B. Jordan's character, now I'm forgetting who was in the car. I think that was Stack.
I think
And
it's back,
that's
yeah.
why Stack is like, hey, why don't you you're not going to play the guitar because that wasn't in the script. So he just starts playing.
Yeah.
Right. So all of that was happening at at one time, and Ryan just kept the camera rolling.
Mm.
So and that the blues and him humming like that and like all that emotion he just communicated through that, knowing that he had been through something, right? I don't even know if we got super. No, at one point he did tell us, but it was still like this, like it's air of mystery, but
Mm.
you knew that he had been through something, right? So yeah, all of that is necessary in my mind because really, like we say, is like hidden inside of a vampire movie, and a lot of that's true because the vampires don't become important until much later in the film, and when they are important, they're important. But for right now, we're talking about just these people and building this community. So yeah, I can ramble on about that forever, but yeah, like it's if the movie cut off, well, I wouldn't want it to, obviously, because I paid a lot of money for IMAX tickets. But if the movie had cut off and
Yeah.
it wasn't about vampires at all, like it would have been impactful for me. Yeah. So I'll stop there because there's other things to talk about for sure.
No, it's so good, and I absolutely agree with you that all of that setup is so interesting and so important, and it's not just filler or exposition, but all of that piece, like, I agree with you. If the vampires never showed up, it's still an interesting movie.
Beautiful.
Like, we still go on a whole journey with these characters, and they have setbacks and triumphs, and they have conflict and things they have to overcome. Like, there's so much in there that's happening. And then you get some really cool vampire stuff that happens at the end, which is also, it's like the cherry on top of it all. But the movie and these characters are so well developed and they're so just interesting, and you just want to hang out with them. Like, I had such a good time with these brothers as they're going about doing all of their chores, kind of gathering this group to help them put on the juke. And then I had so much fun there with them and seeing how everybody is interacting, seeing them in all of their different places too. And one thing that I especially loved about how this was filmed is you feel so rooted in the place that you're in. So when Stack is in the town, you know where everybody is. You can see them even as they're like going in and out of the stores. Like, you feel like you are there with them in this town. It's the same thing when they're at the juke joint, and you see everybody moving about the space, but you feel like you're there. You can see where Annie is hanging out over here. You can see where Stack and Mary are over here. Like, there's just such a sense of place, and it feels so grounded and so accessible, and you feel like you're just hanging out with these characters. And I didn't want that to ever end, and then obviously it has to because vampires. But yeah, that long stretch where we're just hanging out with these characters is so fun and also so important. So I think that is really what makes this film special, because if he had skimped on that first part, the vampire stuff would have been cool. It still would have been impactful and important, but it wouldn't have been as satisfying as it is because we got to know these characters so well. And there's so many characters, and we get to know them so well in a pretty short period of time for everything that we learn about all of them. So just shout out again to Ryan Coogler and his incredible writing in this film. It is top notch.
It's so good. Yeah. Anyone who says that it lasts too long, they're just wrong. Like, they're wrong, okay? Because, like we said, it's about the people. I think even describing this movie as a vampire movie, like, does it a disservice because it's not about the spectacle of, like, getting to see the big action sequences. That is used to serve the larger plot line and the narrative arcs for these people that we fall in love with. And I think also that section in the first, like, half to 2/3 of the film is essential because you see everyone, when this group is formed together, everyone's, like, bought into this dream and to this vision of this place of safety and freedom and expression. And so I think that builds up, and seeing how much effort and time and intentionality it takes to build something like this together and to bring the crew together, I think that amount of effort and dreams being painted for everyone who's like, okay, yes, I want to be a part of this, needs to happen so that when the third act comes in, like, we feel the weight of that. We feel the stakes of it, and we feel how much the characters also experiencing the, like, man, we were building something here, you know? And so I think that's all essential. And we could have maybe gotten a vampire fight earlier, but I think that's just like a different movie, and we've seen that type of movie a million times before. This is not that. Like, the vampires serve the larger purpose. The movie doesn't serve the vampires. So I think that's why I loved in your one-sentence summary, Kenny, how you kind of structured it, because the hidden in a vampire film is in support of that meat, which is this love letter to the Black community and everything that they have been gifted with and are talented in. We've got to talk about the music. Oh my gosh, that scene.
Absolutely.
Ken, I think you alluded to this at the beginning. That scene, the one that everyone online is like, that scene, and you know which one they're talking about. Yeah, tell us your thoughts about that scene.
So when the scene first started, so when they're in the juke joint and the scene, oh wait, let me just say this one last thing about the start of the movie.
Yeah.
So Sammy rolls up in his car all beaten up and stuff like that, and he goes to see his dad, and then you go to the flashback or get to the beginning of the story. It shocked me, like, to no end that this whole thing happened in a day. I was like, wait, this happens in a day? And I think even that, the first part of the movie taking so long is because this is all happening in a day, right? So I think that is an important aspect of that. But anyway, getting back to the juke joint, so when it first started, right, I was a little disoriented, like, what is going on here? Right? When we get into, like, the scene where we're talking about the scene in the juke joint where essentially Ryan cracks the space-time continuum and brings in music from Black cultures from all across time, and essentially tells a story about how we have always been connected in this way and how music has always connected us to our ancestors and our history. And there's several things about this that I love, by the way. One of the biggest things I love about this is how he uses hip hop in this. And then I'll also talk about how he uses the way that the women were dancing, like we're twerking, like from our generation, right? A big part of why I found that so, like, fulfilling is because we have always been told that hip hop is wrong, it's evil, it's not good, it's all of these negative things. Society has placed hip hop, the dominating music style today, has was placed in this category of undesirable, right? And through that, him showing breaking, DJs, all this stuff that were, like I said, like, criticized, as as if he's proud of it, as if he's oh gosh, I'm mixing up my words. Not proud of it. It is proud of it, but he has pride in that history. He takes pride in that history, right? And even when I was talking about, we can get to the twerking part about it. Women in my culture have been twerking since way back in our ancestry and Caribbean ancestry and all this stuff. And not and a point of just being a sexual thing. It's just the way that the culture dance in these different places. I remember watching Black Panther and it's like, that looks like twerking. It's not the same, but the movements are similar, right?
Mm.
And there's just idea that even the way Black women express themselves today is undesirable. And he says, no, this is part of our culture. We take pride in all parts of our culture. So I love the fact that he included the undesirables and said, no, we're proud of this. This connects us. And then he goes all the way back to music that I'm not even really familiar with, like African music that came from our ancestors and our forefathers. I don't think forefathers is the correct terminology here, but like he takes us back, and this journey and the way that he weaves it is like, I was getting emotional just watching it and being proud of where I am, who I came from. I had never felt like the funny enough, the last time I felt this connected to Black culture was Black Panther. So good job, Ryan. You did it twice. So that was like, I haven't felt that kind of pride watching a movie since then. So yeah, I may not have explained that the best way, but yeah, that is that was a beautiful scene. I'm so happy I got to experience it.
Mm. That was so good. You described it beautifully. Yeah, that was
Appreciate it.
That was amazing. And I didn't even realize until you were describing it how much it mirrors Sammy's journey, the one who kind of initiates and like brings in and stewards and invites in this like transcendent moment. Sammy is also going through that same journey as well that you were experiencing as an audience member, which is he's felt that his father is disapproving of his music and his expression in this way. And he's moving to this place as he's in community now with people that celebrate him of like, no, you have been gifted with this talent. You should be proud of it. You need to share this with the world, you know? And so even seeing Sammy's relationship with Delroy Lindo's character over the course of the film of going through that journey of being like, this is something you have been given that's not just for yourself anymore. It's for our people, and it's for creating these moments that are hugely powerful. So it was neat to hear you express how you felt and then how much that is connected with how the character in the film that is ushering in this moment is also in that same journey of something that was undesirable, that has been shameful with his family who is deeply religious. And he's going, no, actually, this is me. This is something that is worthy of celebration and sharing in that with his community together. It's so cool. Sarah, I know you also love this scene. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts about
I sure
your thoughts about
did.
the scene and what you're feeling and experiencing in the scene.
No, I think it's just such a phenomenal scene on so many levels. Like, obviously, thematically, there's so much going on in there. But it's also so, like, musically interesting, too, to hear all of these genres melding together that you normally wouldn't hear together. And the way that they do that is just phenomenal. And then the cinematography is just, wow, out of this world. Like, the precision and the intentionality to do what they did with the camera in that scene is wild. I want an extensive behind the scenes on that one scene alone. I need to know more. But I think one thing that I've been kind of thinking about based on the movie as a whole, but that scene in particular, is how limiting genre is as a construct. Like, obviously it's helpful to try and classify things, but there are some real limitations to it because music, I think, is more fluid than we would like to think that it is. And musical genres build on each other. Different musical styles influence one another. And it's sometimes hard to pit just slap a label on something and just say, that is what it is. It fits in this box and then it's done. But music builds on itself. And I think that the blues is a really smart inclusion in this film. And I love that the way that we see other influences of blues throughout the film as well. So you start with hearing the church choir sing, and blues was really heavily influenced by the gospel type of music. And then we see the men singing while they're working on the chain gang, which also influence the blues as well. And so you just see this kind of like melting pot of all of these different influences, not only on blues, but then you see how blues is going to influence these other types of genres in the future as well. And I just thought that was a really beautiful way to kind of show that, but also kind of break down these genres that are really, really limiting. And so that's just something that I keep thinking about, is the labels that we place on things are often limiting and can be helpful to an extent, but there's so much more depth and richness usually that we miss if we're just focusing on the label and trying to fit it into a box. And something like blues, I feel like you can't fit it into a box. And so that scene, I don't know, it explores all of these different things that I've just been mulling over for weeks now.
It's interesting because there is really no box for blues because of where it comes from, right? So it just comes, just like we were talking about with Delroy Orlando's character who was in the car. It just came from him, right? It was just came up out of him, and that's what it was. Same thing with Sammy when he first started singing and Stack heard him. It was just coming from his soul, from his relationship with his father and everything like that. It was so there's no box because there's no box for you either. So if it's coming out of you, then that's what it is. You can't really you can put a label on them because obviously we call it blues, but there's more to it than a singular sound, like just like you're saying. And a lot of like you're saying, a lot of genres are influenced by blues, right? So I think that is apt observation by you for sure. Yeah. But what's also interesting too with the music, and not just in that scene, is I'm sure you've seen this a lot on threads, like the Irish jig that that Remick had was fire. It was great. I loved it. And I think like what's interesting about that song is that's also about his history and where he came from. And it was like it was interesting to hear that during this particular especially during that scene, during this particular movie that's all rooted in Black culture, and just seeing another culture express itself, but it's not too different than what we were expressing during that time either, and the music sounded good. So like there's this marriage of genres in this movie that I think is really interesting, and none of it is demonized except for, I don't want to say the bluegrass that they walked up with that the Remick and the two clan members was demonized, but I definitely wasn't feeling that. When the Irish jig out, I was like, hey, we can get with this one. The river dance, we in there. But the bluegrass they walked up, I was like, hey, listen, we not
this ain't
that's
it.
just not for
This
me.
ain't it. Yeah.
That's just not for me. Yeah.
I love that you mentioned that bluegrass moment where the three of them show up with their little act too, because I think that scene happens like literally minutes after the iconic scene with Sammy, and you just feel how much that scene was born from so much passion and like an overflowing of expression. And I think you can feel the like void of that in the three of them when they're showing up, that they like are looking to fabricate or like emulate some sort of like experience, but there was nothing to express. It felt empty. You know what I mean? And so this isn't a knock on bluegrass music at all. I mean, there's so much that's born from any music that's created, but just the intention and like what they were looking to do when they were playing their music was either manipulation, kind of emulation, kind of something empty, versus it was truly just an overflow. And I think that was fascinating. I cracked up in that scene because I was like, y'all, this ain't what is happening on screen? And you cuts to like the facial expressions of everyone standing at the door being like, okay, you know, like, oh, what they're putting out here. But I love that you mentioned the Irish jig sequence because it lasts for much longer than I expected to. There's so much screen time given to that. And I think Remick also being Irish is significant because in the immigrant experience of white Americans, they are often also marginalized. And so there's a widening of the narrative. There's a widening of the room for nuance than I think just us versus them, demonizing one side or the other. There's actually like a wider, larger, more human thesis that's being made beyond just what might be immediately obvious in this film, which I think is what makes this film really complex and not just a, hey, we're going to take this concept that's the fabric of our society and weave it into a vampire movie. There's actually a lot more dynamics at play here across so many other of the people groups that are included here. I mean, we mentioned briefly, I think, Kenny, the Asian population as well, being represented in this way and kind of being initially one and collaborative and together with this crew. And then when those pressures and survival instincts come in, like they kind of go off and are self-preserving, you know? And so the way that those oppressive forces can create rifts between people groups that have been oppressed in the States and whatnot, I think is also like so woven in here as well. And there's whole scenes and dedicated time for those moments and for that nuance to live on the big screen, which I think is notable in this movie. So notable.
Yeah, what did Grace? It was either Grace or her husband who said, "Yeah, we came here to help them with the party. We didn't come here for this." And they were about to head out, and it was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, we're not going to be a part of this. You guys are about to go through something, and we need to
They're like, we're out.
skedaddle a little bit. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
out of here." Yeah,
Yeah.
and even Grace's decision later on in the movie to essentially, which I think, like, I wrestle with internally entirely, but let me just get it out so people know what we're talking about. Like, her decision to invite the vampires in so that she can save her daughter, it's such an interesting conversation because I see both sides. So the sides are, "Hey, you condemned everybody else being selfish because of you thought your daughter was in trouble and you got everybody killed. And not only that, you were the first person to die when they came through the door. So you did all that just to get everybody killed." On the other hand, hey, look, if my daughter, if my son, if my child is in danger, and I think they're in danger, there is a real sense of F y'all, I'm going to go save my child. Like there's no thought about it. So I don't, so I'm on both sides of it a lot, or I should say, like, I empathize with what Grace was thinking, what was going through, because it's not like she felt like she had time to make that decision. I see a lot of people say, "Well, if you look at these facts and this and this and that, and maybe they wouldn't have wanted to." When your child's in trouble, you're not thinking about you're not laying it out. You don't have the whiteboard out and trying to strategize like, will my daughter be saved if I don't do like none of that is happening in that moment, right? So I definitely empathize with Grace, but I definitely see the criticism too. Criticism, criticism. Wow, criticism too of her decision in that moment, because there is definitely other moves that she could have made, but your child is in trouble. If Bruno is in trouble, my dog, like, I'm going to make some decisions, right? So, yeah.
And I love that the film allows all of that nuance to just hang out there. And you, as the viewer, are meant to engage with it. You know, like she's not painted. There's so much time spent where we get to empathize with her. And then she makes some choices where I was yelling at my screen. I was like, girl, please don't do this. You know, like, but we can relate to her and we can sit with I can see this, but then I see this, but then at the cost of this and all of that complexity. The film doesn't try and wrap up for you either or tell you how to feel. It's like it's going to let it hang out there, come engage with it and play in the nuance because the world is nuanced, you know? And so, and it invites those conversations too that are happening online and discussion and discourse. So yeah, I love all of that. I love all of that.
Yeah, the other piece that I loved around like how nuanced this is the decision to make Remick Irish. Like, I think that helps make this movie maybe even more interesting too. Like, Jen, you mentioned, like, when the Irish first came to the U.S., a lot of them were indentured servants. And, you know, many of them were mistreated by masters. They could be killed by their masters. Like, they were an oppressed people until they were seen as white. And then instead of, like, working for the collective liberation of all, they found safety in whiteness and contributed to the oppression. And I thought that was so interesting to make him Irish, because then I was thinking about that while watching this, and that it's not like white people who are the bad ones, it's whiteness. And this partnering with the oppression of others and this greed that we see of, you have this thing and I must take it for my own. And we see that come up in little ways and big ways. So Delroy Lindo's character, Delta Slim, when they're in the car, he talks about white people want our music, but not us. And then we see the trio coming up to the door and saying, hey, we're into equality and music. We want what you have for ourselves. We can take what you've done and we can make it better our way, rather than just appreciating this beauty that just happened. And then obviously with like the KKK, and that's evil. Awful. But it is a result of whiteness and greed and wanting what other people have for themselves. And I love how all of that shows up throughout the film in so many different ways. And like you said, Jen, like there's so much nuance there. And so even there's some movies that I watch as a white person and I'm like, oh my God, we are the worst. And I walk away and I like feel awful. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do as a white person? How do I do this? But this movie invites so much contemplation of like, okay, how can I be a person who appreciates blues music, which I do, but not be that person that's like over consuming and wanting to be greedy and is contributing to some of these negative things. Like, how can I appreciate Black music, blues, which was born out of Black struggle, and celebrate Black people at the same time instead of trying to make it all about whiteness? Like, how do I not contribute to these negative systems? And so this film just contributes so much of that nuance and giving you ways to think about like, okay, our world still has a lot of these issues. How will I go about this world, knowing what I know? How can I respond and not be a vampire in this world? And I love that. It's so thoughtful and is an invitation to thinking more deeply and having these conversations instead of just like, okay, well, that was easy. That was a simple story. Let me just walk away. No, there's stuff to wrestle with this movie. And I think that that's incredibly valuable. And is part of the reason why I think so many people are engaging with it, because there's just so much to think about, so much to talk about. And the more that you see it and the more that you talk about it, the more layers you discover along the way.
Yeah, I think if Remick is just straight up evil and is like when he was asked if he was part of the Klan, he's like, beg your pardon? The Klan? Klan? Like, he was very upset by the very notion that he was a part of the Klan. And I think what's interesting about Remick in that state is like he's saying like, I may be a vampire, but I'm not a Ku Klux Klan member. So part of that is like Remick not understanding that what he is doing is wrong, but it's not coming from a place of hatred. It's just coming from a place of his perceived necessity, his entire reason for wanting to, like, it's not even, the funny thing is, it's not even like he's trying to bite Sammy because he's hungry or to be a vampire. Like that's none of their motivation.
Wow.
All of their motivation is, hey, come join us, come join the collective, be a part of us, share knowledge, all this other stuff. Let me, like you were saying, let me take your knowledge and make it better, make it more profound, more useful. And I believe my understanding was that Remick was trying to connect with his ancestors by biting Sammy and essentially getting his powers, which is really interesting and really fun. And I understand Remick wanting to connect to his ancestors because of what he expressed that he went through. I get it. I totally understand. But you can't go around biting people. Like, that's not cool, right? So like, there's this, there's this like this understanding, and the best villains, as you know, are the ones where you understand their perspective. You may not agree with their perspective, but you understand their perspective, right? And I love that we not only get Remick being, I guess in a sense, selfish, culture vulture-ish, but we also get the actual evil in the Klan, right? Later on, because I didn't pick up on that at all until Remick dimed out the Klan. Like, it was, was it Remick that dimed out the Klan? I believe it was. Who told him like, hey, the Klan are coming back around to get you guys. And then we get the cathartic piece at the end with Smoke taking them all the Klan out, which So beautiful. I loved it. I
Love that.
saw one friend, I don't know if you guys saw Rebel Ridge. It's a very different circumstance, but at the end of Rebel Ridge, all the cops essentially are beaten, defeated, but it's like non-lethal. There's a whole ton of nuance why it being lethal would be a terrible idea for a black person. But in this situation, like it was more cathartic just to see the Klan being taken out in the way that they were. But yeah, I love what you're saying because there is that dichotomy between the type of evil or problematicness that Remick is and the actual, like, real evil that the Klan is, because it's much more interesting that way. You have so many dynamics that are at play at the same time.
Mm. That's so good. I think that phrase you mentioned, perceived necessity, that is nailed it on the head, because I think that that is a distinguishing factor from the true like Hogwood and his crew, right? But at their lack of ability to see the costs of their perceived necessity and putting that first without recognizing the implications is their fault, is their responsibility. You could argue that Grace's choice is the same way. There's a perceived necessity and then an utter inability to see anything else and what that means for the other people in her environment. That is the issue that she needs to wrestle with. But it is different. It's different and notable and different and distinguished from Hogwood. And yet the costs are the same. You know what I mean? Like the implications are the same for the crew that we are invested in, that we're following. And so I thought that was just such a great phrase, because it's like speaking to the blindness and the inability to see beyond themselves and their own goals, and kind of the like hubris and pride in that, and the lack of need to see others, I think is their fault. And so yeah, I just love that phrase, because we can empathize, we can understand, but then we also cannot condone either. You know, we're like, I could see why you made those choices. It still ain't right. You need to figure that out. You need to wrestle with that. But there's a little bit of an understanding that is allowed for and given to those characters specifically. It's fascinating. Yeah. I'm curious to hear y'all's thoughts on that kind of denouement scene that happens in the mid-credits segment. That scene was so powerful for me, and I think it frames the whole rest of the film for me and its meaning and kind of the overarching thesis of this all. You know, I love that the film doesn't end with Smoke taking out everyone and then going to be with his stunning wife, you know, and in the afterlife. Like, that's actually not the end. The end is Stack and Sammy in his old age having that conversation and that moment together. So I'm curious y'all's read of that scene and interpretation of that scene, and how that might have shaped your understanding of the film, or that choice for that to be the ending.
That scene had me concerned. I wasn't sure what Stack was there for. So when we see Sammy in his old age, first of all, I was elated. Because for me, like, seeing him ride off into the sunset or drive off, that could have been the end of the movie, and that would have been perfectly fine, and I would have loved it, right? But I love the fact that we got to see that Sammy lived, and not only lived, thrived, is still able to play his music, is still got to pursue his passion. We don't know what other troubles he went through between those times, but we know that he's alive and he's well and he's doing well, right? So when Stack walks through the door, I'm like, God, please don't change the status of Sammy's life. Like, don't bite Sammy, don't ruin Sammy's life, don't come out for revenge. I wasn't sure what Stack was there for. But as the scene went on and we got to see Stack is just there. First of all, Stack was dressed immaculately, as was Mary. But Stack, yeah, the 4-finger ring that says Stack on it, and the Coogee. So, like, he looked awesome. I think it was 92, and I was 2 years old at that time. But I'm sure I would have still said it was awesome in my own 2-year-old way back then. But yeah, like it was great to see them in that light, but to see Stack catch up with him, tell him what happened, give him closure. That was huge for me too. Like, this is what happened. The reason, like, I lived. My brother said, as long as I don't hurt you, I just need to promise him that I won't hurt you. So we've been living, we've been doing well, we've been good. He gave them closure, and that was super important, because I'm not even sure if Sammy necessarily needed or desired closure at that time, but sometimes closure comes when you least expect it, and it may not have been necessarily needed, but it's still something valuable now. Like, I know what happened, and I can live knowing my entire story from every angle, right? So yeah, I thought that that was a really great scene that put a button on it because I was happy to see Sammy was living. Stack and Mary, I'm interested in what they're doing. That doesn't mean I necessarily need a sequel or anything like that, but what have y'all been doing since then? But yeah, that scene put a really nice button on it for me.
Yeah, I loved that scene. I love Buddy Guy. And so it was just so cool to see him. I was like, yes, Buddy Guy. And then they got their own little private Buddy Guy concert. And so I was like hardcore jealous. But I agree with you, Kenny, that that scene really tied everything together. And another thing that I love about this film is that it doesn't paint Smoke as the good brother and Stack as the bad brother. It would have been so easy to make them foils to each other and make one good and one bad. And that's not the case. And we see even here, Stack, the vampire brother, his bond with Smoke was so strong that he honored that promise that he made for years. You know, it's been quite a few decades since this happened. And Stack made sure to honor that promise. So I think it also just it ties a nice, neat little bow on the story, but I think it also just reveals an added layer of the depth of bond between these two brothers, and just kind of, I think, revealed a little bit more of Stack's personality as well. And I feel like you learn more about both of the brothers through that little ending scene.
I wanted to ask, because maybe either one of you are more familiar with vampire lore than I am, but Stack was unable either Stack was unable to kill Smoke or it was the other way around. Stack was unable to bite Smoke. And I think that has something to do with vampire lore where you can't, like, it's like, I forget what it is. Almost like you can't bite someone of your own blood. Like, I know I've seen something similar to that before. I just can't put my finger on it. You guys can cut all of this out if you need to. But yeah.
I read it as Annie's mojo bag that she had that she gave to Smoke, because they mention he made it through the war and was never like, wow. He obviously has PTSD, but like he wasn't physically injured, and right. Then he's not killed until he takes the mojo bag off, when he then takes out the clan. So that's just how I read it, is she was actually the one who saved him. Annie is the MVP of this film. But that, yeah, I don't know, maybe my reading is incorrect.
She is, dude. I would follow her into battle. I'd follow her anywhere to the ends of the earth.
Speaking of which, can we talk about Annie for a little bit? Because Annie is the MVP of this. I would feel so bad if we got through this without talking about her. Annie is freaking amazing. So there's so many layers to it, right? So there's so many layers to it. Like, one of the number one layer to it is, or not the number one, but one of the layers to it is that she is a fully complete character, just like everybody else. But the thing I love about it is that she's strong, right? And not just strong as like the phrase, "Oh, black women are strong." Like, no, she's strong in the fact that when she sees something right or wrong, she will say that. She will protect her family. She will protect the people who she loves by speaking up about the things that she sings. There's no hesitation. It's a I forget what the word was, ain't, or saying, I forget what it was. A haint. I'm sorry. It was a haint, but it's like, no, that's a vampire. He can't enter. Cornbread, he's been in and out of here all day, but now he can't enter. Oh no, he's a vampire. And then on top of that, and she's intelligent. She had the knowledge. Oh, we need wooden stakes. We need some garlic. We need some silver. You know what I mean? We need. they can't come in unless you invite them now. So don't you be inviting, right? So she has all of this knowledge about these things, right? And she even has the knowledge of the item that protected Smoke all that time. Like, she put that together. And what I loved through that, what we visited through Annie, or what we explored rather through Annie, is Black spiritualism being shown on film, but not being demonized, right? Not being shown as, ooh, I don't know about that voodoo. Like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So, but we saw all of that, but it was like, no, this is a fact of, this is a matter of fact. This is this is what I believe. This is how I believe. And I'm presenting this to you. Didn't you make it through that war? You made it through that war, right? Didn't you? You unscathed? Okay. But the other thing is, we saw her pain in the loss of her child, which pain makes pain makes a character rather more well-rounded than most things, right? Understanding where they came from, what they went through, and how they either didn't get over it or did get over or overcame it. And it's a death of a child is not something that you get over, right? But seeing that, even missing Smoke and having Smoke just reappear out of nowhere from Chicago, and she sees him, it's like, are you gonna make? He says, "Are you gonna make me say it?" It's like, she's like, say it. And he's like, I missed you, right? So he has all that, like, she has all of that. And one of the things that I pointed out in my review of the movie, which I think is super important, is the intimacy that they had, the intimate scene that they had is important because you almost never, I want to say never, but I don't want to speak so authoritatively, but you almost never see someone of her curves, of her body type in a scene like that, in a respectful manner that's not played for a joke, with someone who looks like Michael B. Jordan, in his stature and how he's built, right? This is a beautiful oh my God, she's a beautiful woman. And you see this beautiful gentleman, man, or handsome man, however you want to say it, it's all good, together in that way. And it's not, like I said, played for laughs or anything like that. It's respectful, it's intimate, like it's great to just see that on film. We didn't even talk about all the sexual stuff that was going on in this movie. We don't have to, because, I don't know what rating this podcast is, but there was a lot. but but that was like, it is funny, like, the dichotomy between Mary and Annie. That's a whole nother discussion. But yeah, but Annie is the MVP because she's the best character in this film, in my opinion, because of all of those things that she is. And then when she dies, and she's like, hey, don't let my soul be disconnected from my child. You take care of it immediately. And that was one of the biggest things that happened, because I've seen a lot of people say, hey, it looked like Stack and Mary, they won in the end. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They are cursed. They are never going to be, Stack will never be connected to his brother again. He will never be connected to his culture again. So, getting emotional again. So, because of everything that happened, right? So, yeah, I know I talked for her enough, but yeah, Annie is just an incredible character, and shout out to Wumi Misaku for playing her brilliantly.
Yeah,
when she's never not brilliant. I've never seen a bad Wumi Misaku performance, and I won't. I don't ever. So yeah.
No, she is excellent in this film. And I was very excited to see this movie for a number of reasons, but she was top of the list. Like you, I've never seen a bad performance from her. And the other thing that I loved about Annie's character is that, like you mentioned it, she is strong in her convictions. Like her sense of morality is set. Like, you are not moving her. She has decided what she believes is right, and she is going to do that thing. And I love that you see how that clashes with Smoke throughout the film, primarily around money. And Smoke goes into his whole thing about money and power and how that is like what you need. And she's like, I don't need that. Like, I need my conscience to be clear, and that's it. I'm not going to take any ill-gotten gains, and my conscience is clear, and I'm going to live with that. And so then it's cool to see Smoke go through this journey throughout the film where he is constantly pushing of like, no, we need to have more money because we need to have the power. Like, this is just how the world works. And by the end, he actually accepts Annie's version of things, and he is able to find peace in the end. And so I loved that little journey that he is able to go on, and seeing the world from Annie's point of view, and coming to accept that as the better way to go, instead of chasing after wealth and power, when that's just so much easier to do. But yeah, Annie is the MVP.
She really is. One last thing that I'll say about Annie that I really appreciated that the film gave time for, and how they wrote her character, is I think a lot of times when we see strong women in film and TV, they often are very, very able to make hard decisions, which we get to see her do. She makes a lot of hard decisions in this movie for the group, even sometimes when they aren't able to make those decisions for themselves. But they're often painted as emotionless or colder. And I really appreciate how much we get to see Annie's vulnerability. We get to see those raw emotions in her. Before she's about to die, she showcases there's fear. She's emotional about that moment. Or, when she sees and it was reunited with Smoke for the first time, she allows herself to express that vulnerability of her feelings so clearly. And that was just really refreshing to see, because we often just see women who are very emotional, and they're often shown as weak because of that, or they're shown as strong and emotionless. And she can be this 360 complex. She's every bit of all of it, all at once. And I really appreciated seeing that on the big screen as well, because I think those characters can often be written too far in one direction or the other. And she can do it all, and she showcases that it is beautiful to have all of that expressed so fully. Both when you need to lead and make hard choices, you can, and you have the strength and clarity to do that, but you are so deeply connected to yourself, and therefore able to be connected with others through those moments that are deeply emotional as well and vulnerable. So I loved that aspect of her character and how she was written, and the film's ability to give time for all of those moments for us to see as the viewers. That really meant a lot to me too. Okay, no, time's flying. Any other last big thoughts about Sinners? I feel like we've just scratched the surface, to be honest. And I hope we keep talking about this movie for the decades to come. But any other big last thoughts about Sinners before we wrap? Things that were like, oh my gosh, we have to mention this. We can't not in this review.
I'm curious about you guys' thoughts on Mary. She's another major character that was a huge part in the playing out of events in this movie. I thought my one interesting take about her is the representation of what an ally thinks they are, or how an ally sometimes thinks that they know better than the community that they're a part of, what's best for them. When she goes out to talk to Remick and the others, and she's like, hey, no, just let me go get the money from them. It's like, we don't trust them. We don't know them like that. We don't want their money. I think one of the brothers was fine with it, and the other one was not. And it's like, she goes out to see those people. It's like, no, they're fine, they're safe, or let me just go get the money from them. It's like, hey, no, by you going against what we're seeing, you put all of us in danger, and you put yourself in danger. And now all these events have unfolded because of you, because you thought that you knew better uh, than us about what we need or don't need. So I thought that was a really interesting representation. And she's actually like the very opposite of Annie, in that everything that she was involved in was about Mary. Everything Mary did was about Mary in one way or another. She was coming for Stack. She was coming to get her revenge, her closure. I wouldn't even necessarily call it revenge, but her closure. Everything she did was about her. Even when she tells Sammy to get out of my face, because yeah, whatever, get out of my face. I have a deeper relationship, which was a really well delivered line. Like, Haley Steinfeld everybody was great in this movie, but Haley Steinfeld was also great in this movie. I also have to say, I don't love how people are using Mary and her character as the thumbnail or the front and center for a lot of things I've seen with Sinners has been Mary front and center. I'm like, I don't like that. But that's just a whole nother sidebar. I've even discussed it with a friend who was like, yeah, like if you put Haley Steinfeld on the thumbnail, you'll probably get more views. I was like, that's I don't love that, but but yeah, so that's a whole nother discussion outside of Sinners. But yeah, so I think that she's a very interesting opposite of the coin than who Annie was. She was the whatever the opposite of an MVP is. She was that. So yeah,
LVP, least valuable player?
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe that's
100%.
not a thing, but we can make it a thing.
Oh, we can for sure make it a thing.
She's the
Um,
LVP.
yeah, because when you think about it, no one else calls this but Mary. Obviously, Remick showing up and with the people, obviously. But when it comes down to who let the dogs out or who let the people in, like it's Mary. She did it all, even by forcing her way into the party. Like like all she did was force herself in, and all everybody did was die because of it. But shout out to Haley Steinfeld for playing an incredible role. She was great.
She was so frustrating. I was so frustrated by her. She just parades through the room as if she owns the place, and that really irked me because I just feel like you can feel, which is again Haley Steinfeld's bringing it to the character, which is really great, but just the lack of humility to listen. She just barrels through every situation. I think that is what irked me the most. And I love that Smoke clocked it immediately. You know what I mean? Like she shows up and someone's like, "Oh, where's Stack?" He's with Mary, and Smoke's just like, "Oh my God, okay. All right." And I think that is a fascinating bit of Smoke's like intuition too that we got to see, of him sensing that like my brother loves who he loves, and I love him for that. But then also, like, there's a risk here. There's something that is not that is vulnerable here in with her being a part of this. And it was also beautiful, I think, to see the way that I think there's a moment where Annie's almost also protective of her too, or one of the members of the crew, because I think she's standing in the juke joint and they're talking to the three, and the three's like, "Oh, well, why is she here?" And they say she's with us. And so just seeing how much they've embraced her as well, despite her inability to like see beyond herself too. It's just also like a fascinating like dynamic of as well of how much they just are like, Stack loves her, she's part of us, she's part of this as well, and we're going to protect her, but they can pick up what she's putting down too. And so I found that just her, especially when she goes out and she thinks it's safe, I think that was like a really great moment of showcasing how the intentions are good, but she's just incredibly misguided, and also lacks the humility to recognize that and pause and seek other inputs in. She just kind of, once again, barrels forward with what she wants to do in every situation.
Let me also just say this one last thing.
Yeah.
She's not this way without Stack being the way that he is. Stack is not without fault. Stack, in a lot of ways, caused these issues between them, and she responded. Now, you're responsible for your own actions, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like she was just doing this out of nowhere either. Stack was, and I forget which one of you mentioned this before, but the brothers ain't without fault. Like, they was on some BS for a lot of them. Like, they came from Chicago for a reason, right? They came home for a reason. They was on some BS. So actually they bought the mill with stolen money, right?
Yeah.
And of course, like, they were stolen from gangsters, but there's consequence, like those consequences can follow you home, right? So I was actually, during the course of the movie, like, are the people from Chicago going to show up? Like, is that going to be something that happens? But yeah. So Mary on some BS, Stack also equally on some BS that cost it.
All right. Any other last thoughts? Did we hit them as many as we could in our time together?
I do have a question. We can cut this out, but Kenny, I think I've seen you on the socials telling people about the silliness of really wanting original content and then watching Sinners and then going, "Oh my God, I need a prequel and I need a sequel and I need a spin-off series and I need all the things." So I just wanted to open up the floor. If you would like to get onto a soapbox, you are welcome to get onto one. If you would like. You don't have to, but you can.
Yeah. So first and foremost, my beef is not with Sinners fans. Like people seeing something and saying, "Hey, I want more of that," is great, right? You want the prequels, the Choctaw. We didn't talk about the Choctaw, who are awesome. Real quick, hey, that's dangerous. No, we're good. All right, I'll see you later.
Yeah.
But people wanting prequels and sequels and things like that is great. It's actually great because it proves that people actually enjoyed this thing, right?
Mm.
My issue is more so with cinephiles and people of that nature who are like, oh, people only want original films. And also people are saying there are no original films. But people are like, we only want original films, no more remakes, no more sequels, no more prequels. But the moment you get something that you enjoy, what do you ask for? I want the prequel. I want to know about that community. I want to know about that clan. I want to know where they came from with this. I want every conversation or I want every story about Smoke and Stack in Chicago and what happened and their father and all this other stuff, which is great. I just want people to be intellectually honest about the fact that people who are part of the general audience want things that make them entertained. They're not everybody's here for the art of it all. Like we're here to
Mhm.
be this is literally entertainment. Now, you can even call Sinners edutainment because there's a lot of education and a lot of conversation to come out of it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I want us to stop acting like the only thing people want is original movies and people don't like all these remakes and stuff like that because what consistently makes the most money
Yeah.
prequels, sequels. I just saw that Thunderbolts, which I loved, almost made its budget back in the first weekend. I think it made like $160 million. The budget was $180 million.
Mhm.
Is doing fine. And that's totally fine because that's what people want to see. Now, do I think that people should support original films? I have a real interesting thought on that word support because I almost think that it comes with this connotation of you should go see this even if you don't want to, just because you want that
Mm.
particular thing. But in my opinion, I support original films and studios like A24 and Neon because they put out something that I was interested in. If you
Mm.
put out something that people are interested in, a la Sinners, then people will go and see it.
Mm.
So there is a nuanced conversation about that in terms of
Mm.
advertisement and how people promote things, but there's also another nuanced conversation of I'm only going to put so much promotion into this thing that I think is only going to make me so much money. So not everything is so black and white, where it's like we only want original movies. No, you want new ideas, which is great, but after that,
Yeah.
it's whatever. So
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a balance in understanding people's consumption rather than a black and white. No more prequels, no more sequels, only originals. In what world, right?
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to see the next Star Wars movie? I mean, there are people, but who doesn't, right? So, yeah, all that. Thank you for allowing me to be on the soapbox.
Yes,
I love
of
it.
course,
We love our
anytime.
soapboxes.
Yeah, soapboxes are great. I think it really is though, like people want good content. Like we
Yeah.
want good, high quality entertainment. And that is exactly what Sinners is.
Yep.
Well, and my hot take is I think people don't want original content. They want new ideas in formats and structures that are familiar, that they know.
Hmm.
Because net new, some artsy fartsy indie film that's like wild and out there, I think is like hard to be palatable to the masses. It's just what it is. It's like there's just so much happening, but familiarity, very comforting. In the context of familiarity, serve me something new, which is it's so genius how Sinners does that because everyone loves vampires. Everyone knows vampires. Like hearing Annie describe the rules of the vampire lore that we already know is like still exciting for us every time, you know? But it's flipped on its head. And I would argue that's actually harder to do that than like truly net new, fresh content because to take something that's known and to make it interesting again is actually really, I think, more challenging because it's so familiar. You're like, oh, another vampire movie. Wow, that doesn't do anything new. We've seen that a million times before. This movie could have easily, without the inspired direction and clarity of vision, could have easily fallen into that bucket of like, well, it kind of does this concept, but like, you know, puts this premise on it. That's it.
Mhm.
No, actually, this is mind-blowingly incredible because it's familiar, but it's fresh. That's hard
Yeah.
to do, I think. Really challenging.
And even I think that sometimes I do a disservice by saying it's a love letter to Black people. wrapped in a vampire movie, because I think what we could see here is, oh no, vampire movies can be more than the thing that we're used to. I've seen a lot of people say this isn't a vampire movie. Oh no, it's a vampire movie. It's just a different type of vampire movie, right? This is an expansion on what vampire movies can be. So yeah.
Yeah. No, that's so good. And especially for something that's like so entrenched for like literally centuries of like back through like literature, you know what I mean, and storytelling, to take something like this and still innovate on it is really impressive. And I think it's really inspiring and making us all just like absolutely gush about it, because we can then think about how every genre stereotype, everything that feels familiar, like how can it be flipped on its head? How can it be expanded in the bounds that it takes up? And that's thrilling for us, because we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know you could do this with something that is so known and established and overdone, you know? And Ryan Coogler's like, watch me. Okay, watch me do it.
Yeah. 100%.
So good. Well, this was so great. I absolutely loved this. There's so many like phrases and nuggets that you said, Kennedy, I think that are going to like swirl around my mind for the next week or two. Anyway, well, this was our review and discussion of Sinners. You can find it available out in theaters, hopefully still, I think, at this point. It's been a couple weeks since it's been out.
My wife just went to go see it.
Okay, perfect. Today. Perfect. Heck yeah. So yeah, go out to the theater, see this in the theater, okay? And we can't rave about it enough. So we thank you for listening to this week's episode of Movies and Us, and a big thank you to you, Kenny, for joining, sharing all your thoughts and perspectives and things that really moved you and touched you about this movie. It was so meaningful.
Yeah, I'm super happy to be here. I love having these conversations with y'all, because it's always a great back and forth, a great give and take in our conversations. Y'all do such an amazing job with your podcast. But yeah, Kenny Sparks, and I don't know if you want me to tell people.
Yeah, tell people. Please do. I'm going to tee you up for that. Yeah, tell people where they can find more of you, your thoughts, your content, all that goodness, and connect with you on the interwebs.
Cool beans. My name is Kenny Sparks. I'm on Threads, Kenny Sparks 90, and I'm more importantly on YouTube at Kenny Sparks YT, which stands for YouTube. And you can find me there. I try to put out a new review every single week. I have a review for Thunderbolts coming out hopefully tomorrow, because the editing on that is insane. But yeah, I have that, and I forget what's coming out this upcoming week. But yes, I will have a new review coming out every single week, as long as I breathe, because I just love doing this and talking about movies. So yeah, thanks y'all for having me, and can't wait to do this again.
Yes, we love it so much too. Yeah, we'll include all of those places to follow Kenny, find more of him, watch his content on YouTube, guys. It's really good. He's just very thoughtful in diving beyond just like layer one of like reactions to films. I think there's just like so much peeling back that is really, really great. So definitely watch him on YouTube. Also on Threads, follow him and follow that like nuggets throughout the day. But definitely experience one of his videos. You'll get so much goodness from there. So we'll include all of that in the show notes. Well, our name, Movies and Us, sums it up. We're all about movies and the powerful ways we can connect with each other and the world around us. This podcast is about all of us and our shared stories, so everyone is welcome here, and we're so glad you spent time with us today. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you tune to your favorite shows. Drop us a rating review. We want to hear all of your thoughts about Sinners, moments that stood out to you. You can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Movies and Us Pod, or email us at moviesandUsPod@gmail.com. Check out our website. We newly launched our website not too long ago. It's andusmedia.co for the latest on Movies and Us and our other podcast, TV and Us. In the meantime, we'll be back next week. We're throwing it back. We're doing a classic. It's the 45-year anniversary of Empire Strikes Back. So yeah, we had to do it. We had to talk about that movie. So that'll be coming out next week. Iconic film. Oh my goodness. Yeah, just a staple of like American modern cinema. So we'll be covering Empire Strikes Back next week. So we hope you have an amazing weekend. We'll see y'all back here very soon.